A couple of days ago in the Review Journal, there was a letter to the editor, and the title of the letter was, "When did we become so angry?" Don't have to read the letter, do we? When did we become so angry? So much unkindness in the world today. I'm usually not a pessimistic person, but we got to be honest, got to be sincere. There's an awful lot of vitriol in the world today. Listen to some of the speeches of politicians. There used to be a time when they respected each other. They argued, they'd go up and then have a few bourbons with their opponents, and they get on with life, and they get on with passing bills, and now they're just so much hatred. People are violently protesting so much, even in sports. So there's a clean tackle. The guy didn't like it. He gets up and he takes a swing at the opponent. Didn't happen years ago. So much crudeness, lack of respect. Now, I'm getting up there in years as my psychologist, not my psychologist, I don't go to a psychologist. You may think I should, but my cardiologist said 2 weeks ago, I forgot what he said. I've been around a long time. I asked him in regards to, how your feet begin to swell and all that stuff. I said, well, what do you think? I said, is it because I'm getting old? He said, no, Father Joe, you are old. You are old. And in spite of all my years, I don't ever remember, and I've lived through now 6 or 7 popes, I've never heard so much hate, negativeness, and crudeness from cardinals and bishops about Pope Francis. It's a time that we'd like to see changed. And Advent is a time, Advent is a time for many, many things, but it is also a time for trying to notice the goodness, the love, even in the messiness of life, that God is there. Even in the tragedies of life. And I think I'm going to share with you an example that you're well aware of. Horrible tragedy. Lewiston, Maine, located between Augusta, Maine, and Portland, Maine. I was in that area, not in the city, but in that area this past summer when I was visiting my sister. The community was devastated on that October evening when a gunman killed 18 people in a shooting spree, first in a bowling alley and then in a bar and grill. The victims aged from 14 to his dad. They were bowling together with a couple of other people who were in their 70s who died protecting children from the killer. Now, one of the victims was Joseph Walker, popular manager of the bar and grill. When he saw the gunman come in, he picked up a cleaver and rushed at him and tried to kill him before he killed others. And Joseph was shot to death before he got to the man. He was a daddy, he was a grandfather. He was loved in the neighborhood. Now, you know all that. You've seen it on the news. You probably read it in magazines. But what most of us do not know is that on the following day, Joseph's father, Leroy Walker, spoke to CNN, gave an interview, and a very, very emotional interview. And Leo Walker, the father of Joseph, said that despite his pain, he could not help himself. or bring himself to hate the shooter. Visibly emotional, Leroy Walker explained. If the person was, at that time, in his right mind, I believe he would have been as loving a person as you and I. I just cannot hate him. You can't run around hating people because these things are going to happen more often. If you do these things, and they happen more often, and you hate, and the hate drives you crazy, you're going to hurt people. You're going to kill people. He continues, I'm sure this man, whatever happened to his mind, I'm sure he wasn't born to be a killer. And I'm also sure that his father and mother would never, never have believed that this would happen. So I have to tell you, in spite of the fact that I lost my son and my great-grandson, I'm sorry that all has happened. God will prevail. But hate will never bring my son back. The attitude of, end of quote, the attitude of Leroy Walker is finding, in his own way, the love of God amidst this horrific tragedy. And it's the work, part of what Advent is, it's part of the work of Advent to try to find the love, the patience, the forgiveness, the tenderness of God in our lives and help to create those moments of tenderness and love. Because that's what God is. God is love. We must also call to mind what goes on in the heart and the mind of one who continues to hate, continues not to forgive. You just can't live. We're not built that way, to have something constantly bothering us because of something that we did that we're not happy about. And we let it fester within ourselves. Let me give you a very concrete example. I may have shared it with you years ago. About 25 years ago, I had a wedding in Huntington Beach, California. And just before the ceremony began, I was in the sacristy. This beautiful little gal comes in, one of the bridesmaids, dressed like a queen, you know. Father Joe, do you have a minute to hear my confession? She sat down and became very, very emotional, weeping, and mascara started rolling down her cheeks. I tried to create a little levity, which is my style, and put her at ease and asked, okay, tell me, did you kill anybody this week? She said, in the midst of tears and shaking, yes, with my words. Several months ago, I tore apart the good name and the character of my best friend. I am so sorry. I cannot live with what I have done. Well, I took care of that, her guilt, her hurt, in short order. Then I told her to go over there in front of the mirror and pretty up, take care of that weeping mascara so that we can get on with the wedding. She knew that the love of God would bring her peace. So she had to reach out to that love of God. And the sacrament of reconciliation, before I relieved her of her pain and guilt and suffering, the sacrament began when she walked into that room. Because she tried to find the love of God to assuage her pain, her guilt, amidst the tragedy of tearing apart the character and the personhood of her best friend. That's one of the jobs of Advent, to try to create some of these moments where God's love smashes through the horrific tragedies, the anger, the hate, that we create so often. Gentle moments, little acts of charity, forgiveness, nothing big. A hello, thank you. By doing so, we make present the love of God at that moment. So I don't think I'll ever forget the tragedy in Lewiston, Maine. But I'll always remember the grandfather, Leroy, who went beyond the tragedy. I don't know if he was Jewish or if he was Protestant, if he was Lutheran. Doesn't make any difference. Grace is everywhere, and he plugged into that inadvertently and manifested love, forgiveness, patience. Great time, Lent, Advent. A profound preparation for Christmas.